YouTube. I'm here doing my prediction video for UFC Fight Night, makhachev versus Moises. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is, I can't say these guys' last name, but it's Allen versus Rodrigo. To me, Allen, in his UFC debut, he looked really small. I thought he might have dropped down to light heavyweight. That's all I kind of remember. I just remember him getting out-grappled really quick by Tom Aspinall. I think that Tom might have hit him on the feet a few times, but I just remember Tom looking way bigger than him. As for Rodrigo, he doesn't have the best striking ever, but he's a really good jiu-jitsu guy at heavyweight. And Rodrigo does look like a normal heavyweight, and I think that, Allen's a good striker, but I think Rodrigo can kind of just outsize him. I think Rodrigo can get him to the ground and win by sub in the first round, so I'm leaning towards Rodrigo to win by a first round, like rear naked choke or arm triangle. Next is Francisco Figueiredo versus Malcolm Gordon. To me, Malcolm Gordon looks like he's basically just a grappler. I think Figueiredo's good enough to kind of out-grapple him, or at least keep it on the feet. Like I said, grappling-wise, it's probably about even, but I think Figueiredo has a huge advantage in the feet. I think he just needs to keep it standing, and he can outpoint him for 3 rounds or maybe get a knockout. So I'm leaning towards Figueiredo. Next is Miles Johns versus Anderson dos Santos. To me, Anderson's got decent striking, mostly good jiu-jitsu. I just don't think he can get this to the ground. I think Johns is too good with his takedown defense. I think that this fight will be striking. I think Johns is just way lighter on his feet and more technical of a striker. Anderson can definitely catch him, but I just think that Johns is too fast and, like I said, too clean with his striking. I think he just outpoints him for 3 rounds and wins a dominant decision. Next is Khalid Taha versus Sergio Murzozov. I don't know. It's Sergey. So, Khalid versus Sergey, to me, both these guys are primarily strikers. They both mix in some takedowns here and there. They're both good at getting back to their feet, so I think this will be a striking fight for the most part. My thing is, I think that Khalid has just got more punching power, and I think that's going to favor him. They both have good volume and good technique. It's just kind of who has a little bit advantage anywhere, and I think Khalid has the advantage in hitting power. And because of that, I'm leaning towards him to just probably do a little bit more damage as the fight goes on. I don't think he'll finish Sergey, but I think he'll just kind of edge out the rounds just because he'll facially look like he's doing more damage. So I'm leaning towards Khalid to win at least a 29-20 decision. Next is Amanda Lemos versus, I can't say this chick's first name, Ruiz is her last name. To me, Lemos looks like she's got good striking and some decent overall grappling. I think Ruiz is probably the much better grappler, but striking Lemos is definitely much better. It really is kind of like striker versus grappler, and I'm leaning towards Ruiz. I think that we saw in her last fight, she fought a really good striker with good jiu-jitsu, and she was able to consistently get it to the ground despite that. And because of that, I just think Ruiz, her record's 10-1. When she gets fights to the ground, she usually wins, and I think that's what this fight's going to be. If she can get it to the ground, she beats Lemos. If she can't, she loses. And I'm leaning towards Ruiz getting it to the ground, so I'm picking Ruiz to win by decision. Next is Daniel Rodriguez versus Peterson, Peterson, I can't say his first name. At least I think that's his first name. I don't know. His first and last name look the same to me. To me, these guys are both pretty well-rounded. I think that Rodriguez prefers to strike. He has a decent ground game, but he usually uses it just for defense. I think Peterson, also likes to strike and mix up the grappling here and there, but I just think Rodriguez is just too good at this point. I think that Peterson's, 9-2. He's making his UFC debut on short notice, and I think Rodriguez will be able to stuff any takedown, keep it on the feet, and just outstrike him. I think Rodriguez is the much better striker, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rodriguez gets a first or second round knockout, so that's what I'm going with. Next is Gabriel Benitez versus Billy Quarantillo. To me, I think this fight's going to be more competitive than people might think. I think that Gabriel Benitez is good everywhere. He's got good striking, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling, just like Billy, and he has good enough cardio to keep up with Billy, because most of the time Billy breaks people with his cardio, but to me, I've never seen Benitez gas. Like, he's been, TKO'd before, and he's lost decisions, but he's never looked tired by the end of fights. That's why I think this fight could be fight of the night, because I think these guys can match each other move for move. I think Billy's just a little bit better everywhere, and that's what's going to favor him. The striking, Benitez is probably a little bit more polished, but I think Billy throws more. But I especially think in all the grappling, because Benitez is good everywhere, but I think Billy's, like I said, especially in his wrestling and overall jiu-jitsu, is just a little bit better in both. And I think as long as Billy mixes up the fight and uses striking and grappling, I think that's going to favor him as it goes on. And I think he might win every round, but I think it'll be a competitive fight where, even though he wins every round, this is still like one of those fight of the night style fights where it's like, yeah, he won, but every round was really close and back and forth. So I'm picking Billy to win a 30-27 decision. Next is Hidalgo Vieira versus Dustin. I can't say his last name. Dustin is really good with his wrestling and jiu-jitsu. He's not the greatest striker ever, but he's decent. And this is the thing. I think that Dustin just needs to survive the first, like, 2 rounds. Because I think he could finish Vieira in the 3rd. Vieira tends to slow really hard if he can't get those early finishes. And, like I said, even though Vieira is the better grappler, I think that Dustin has good enough jiu-jitsu to survive on the ground. And even though I am picking Vieira in this fight, I will not be shocked if Dustin can drag this out for the first 2 rounds and then just get a 3rd round KO. Like, it really just depends on how smart Justin is with his defense, because I think he is good with his jiu-jitsu. He is a grappler himself, a very high-level grappler. I will pick Vieira, like I said, because I think he'll win at least the first 2 rounds, but like I said, don't be shocked if Dustin can pull off a late, comeback, knockout win. Next is Jeremy Stephens versus, I can't say his first name, but it's Gamrot. Gamrot is really, really good. His record's like 18-1. His UFC debut was, I think, his first loss ever, and that was a super close fight, but then he had a super dominant win in his last fight. And, Jeremy, he's lost 4 straight. This fight's really tough because I feel like, Gamrot can kind of do things to Jeremy that Jeremy isn't great at. Like, if Gamrot can keep taking him down, which is something he's really good at, he's good at shooting for takedowns over and over again. Kind of like a young Diego Sanchez in that sense, but I'd say he's better because he's more well-rounded with his jiu-jitsu and striking. I know that Gamrot's probably going to win, but I really want Jeremy to win, and that's why I'm picking him. I think that Jeremy, it could just be the weight cut. He's still not that old. He's 30-something, which in the lighter weight classes is pretty old. But I think that Jeremy still has really good striking, really good punching power, and good takedown defense. As long as he can stuff the takedowns, I think this fight's close. Gamrot could do what a lot of guys do to Jeremy, and that's just stick on the outside and point fight him, kind of. Like I said, Gamrot's realistically most likely going to win this fight, but I'm leaning towards Jeremy. I'm just hoping that Jeremy will eventually be able to catch him and knock him out. Because that's the thing with Jeremy. He really only needs to land one good shot to knock people out. But yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if Gamrot wins. He is technically the better fighter overall. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Jeremy to win by knockout. Next we got Marion Renault versus Miesha Tate. And this is the perfect fight for Miesha Tate because Marion Renault is ranked, kind of towards the bottom of the division, and she's pretty old. She's like 40, 41. Miesha Tate's like 33, 34. She's been out for like 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I think these chicks are pretty close. I think that Marion Renault is probably the better striker, but Miesha Tate's the better overall grappler. Marion Renault has good jiu-jitsu off her back. She has a couple wins by triangle, I think. So this is a good test for Miesha, but I do think Misha's the better fighter overall. I think that the time off could have helped her too, just because she had some really tough fights back-to-back. So, she had a kid too. So hopefully all this time off, she's been able to polish her skills a little bit, rest her body a little bit. And I think that with that, as long as she doesn't look rusty, I think Miesha should win this fight. I think especially her wrestling will help her out because I think Miesha's been submitted maybe once in her career. If she got submitted more than that, I think maybe twice, but that was the Amanda Nunes fight where that was basically the TKO. It's just Amanda took her back. So she has good grappling, takedown defense, and all that, and submission defense. So I'm leaning towards Miesha. I think she's going to be able to kind of ride out Renault for 3 rounds and win a dominant decision. I think on the feet it'll be competitive. Renault might be winning, but I think Miesha will continuously get this to the ground and win by decision. Finally, we got Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises, and this is such a weird fight because it's like I feel like Islam should be fighting guys in the top 10 at this point. And it's no offense to Moises, but like he's in the top 15 because other guys retired. He's not a bad fighter. I think Moises is actually really good. I just think that, like, I think on the ground, we've already seen when he fought Beneil Dariush, like, he has some submissions off his back, but guys with good top control and submission defense can keep him down for rounds after rounds after rounds. And I feel like Islam should be able to do exactly what Beneil Dariush did, which is just take him down over and over again, avoid any submissions, and just win a dominant decision. I don't think Thiago Moises, he has submissions off of his back, like I said, but I don't think he's one of those Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush style grapplers where they have such good submissions off their back that, they can get back up to their feet really quick. Maybe he's gotten better since then. I mean, that was a few years ago. He's probably worked on it, like submissions off his back, but I still feel like Makhachev is good enough to avoid those submissions and just maintain cop control for 5 straight rounds, if not getting a finish. Benil, I mean not Benil, but uh, Moises is definitely the better striker, and if he can keep on the feet, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins by TKO, but I just think Makhachev repeatedly gives us a ground and wins a dominant decision. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.